Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to conduct classes for the subject Teaching and Assessment Mentoring. My name is Mr. Tedia Shikukuma, and I will take you through this today. First of all, I would like us to have a look at the action verbs. The action verbs that I'm referring to are the action verbs that are at the beginning of your module. They are quite helpful because all the questions, be it in assignments or in examination, are derived from these action verbs. So they are the guiding verbs that will direct you on how to approach any question that is in the assignment. So therefore, these action verbs are quite important. So you have to understand each of the verbs. It's against this background that we are going to have a look at all the verbs one by one, just for you to get a picture. And when you are going to approach a question in an assignment, you know what you are referring to, and you know what each verb entails, and will be able to do justice to all the questions if you understand what it wants you to give. Okay, the first verb that we have there as an action verb is analyze. One has to understand what does it mean to analyze. To analyze means to examine information in detail. And we have a verb calculate. Calculate, in this case, maybe in an assignment, you are required to, you are required to give a numerical answer from the given figures that are presented to you. While the verb comment means you should discuss briefly by giving positive and negative points of that particular item or that particular phenomena that is given to you. Compare. When you are comparing, what you are required to do is to draw a conclusion about the similarities and differences. So there are two things that are involved. That is, if you are making the comparisons, of course you are drawing to a conclusion about the similarities as well as the differences. The other action verb, contrast, that means look only for similarities. If you are contrasting, then definitely your direction is on similarities. Criticize. When you're criticizing, you give reasonable judgment after weighing facts carefully. So you have to weigh the facts carefully, and then it's when you give or you draw to the judgment depending on what you are given. So you look at the facts. Deduce, to use the information provided in order for you to reach to the conclusion. While when you are asked, and this is a must-have in an assignment, if you are required to define, then what you are doing is you give the precise, brief meaning and features. So you should understand that here, when you are defining, you don't have to beat around the bush, but you definitely have to give the brief meaning and features. Demonstrate. When you're demonstrating, what are you doing? You show by examples. You give examples that are relevant to what is being discussed. Then describe. You provide detailed features for and against. Very important, because such a verb, describe, it normally comes in an assignment because it's one of the requirements. So you must understand this quite well. Determine. Use provided information in order to work out the answer you are determining. While distinguish, this is also becoming popular in an assignment or even in examination. The verb distinguish. What is required from you? You should describe two phenomena, and then you have to clearly give differences of the two phenomena that you are describing. So that's what it means to distinguish. You describe two phenomena, clearly giving differences of the two phenomena that are presented before you. And then the action verbs continue. We have estimate. What are you doing? You give the impact of something. What impact does something have? You are trying to estimate. So evaluate, when you're evaluating, it means that you should determine the value of something as per set criteria, the value of something. So you're evaluating. If you are evaluating, definitely what you are doing is you are trying to determine the value of something as the criteria that are given. Explain. You should describe. This is also a must in an assignment. So you must know what is required from you if you are asked to explain. So what you are doing, you are describing by indicating relationships between things. Can be two, can be three, it depends. And when you are required to find, of course, what you are simply doing is calculate, measure, and determine. Then the other verbs, identify. You recognize a name, as simple as that. If you're identifying, you don't have a lot to say. You're simply doing the recognition and you are naming. That's basically all. Illustrate, you describe with examples. Very important. You describe with relevant examples. While interpret, you describe something, explain the meaning of graphical information. So that's also one of the very important aspects, because then you have to apply your knowledge. You describe something, explain the meaning of graphical information. We have the action verb examine. Examine, what I required to do is to identify detailed features of something. While when you are listing, list, if the question asks you to list, simply as that, you list facts, names, objects, etc. The question might also require you to outline what are you doing. You give an overview and indicate the main features. Not only giving an overview and then you leave it there, but definitely you have to indicate the main features as well. And then summarize. What are you doing if the question requires you to summarize? Of course, you focus on main ideas. When you are summarizing, remember, you do not have to give examples. You only focus on the main ideas, and that's basically all. Now, going into the presentation, this module requires you to apply the knowledge that you have acquired so far in the teaching profession. Sometimes you are required to go to the module. Sometimes you make use of the knowledge that you have, you have acquired so far as a teacher, as a principal, as an inspector, as perhaps a head of department. So you must have a wider understanding of the terminology. Don't just limit yourself to the module, but you can always expand it by getting information here and there, especially on the internet, etc. So define the term parent mentoring. If you are talking about parent mentoring, what is that we are referring to? The book will be able to guide you of what does it mean, parent mentoring. And as I have said it earlier, you cannot limit yourself to the book that you are given. You can expand that, you want to get a better definition that you can utilize in the examination, that you can utilize in the assignment, but not simply copying and pasting, but it goes beyond that. You need to expand the knowledge. So therefore, you should get the meaning of the definition of the term parent mentoring as combined, the word parent and mentoring. Make it one. Then you answer based on that perspective. Explain the components for a successful program of mentoring, because these days at schools, especially the novice teachers, the teachers that have just started at school, they need to be mentored. And through this mentoring, they will be able to become successful teachers because of what they have been taken through. So it must be the responsibility of the school to make sure that new teachers that are joining the profession need to be mentored. So now if I have to connect this component or this item with what is taking place in the school, so it means that you should be able to explain the components of a successful program of mentoring, because there should be a program at school. Okay, What are the components that are involved? You go to your study guide, then you get this. Explain but don't forget, we are talking about the action verbs. The action verbs are guiding you and they are helping you, they are telling you of how you will or you would approach the question. Okay? Explain the issue of licensing of teachers. This has been spoken about. I know the unions like NANTU has been on the helm of this. They have very condemning it. It's not really wanted, but can you talk about it? Can you explain what is that they are saying about licensing of teachers in Namibia? Maybe you can also make references, or you can go to the issues of seeing what other countries are doing when it comes to the licensing of teachers, the world, Africa, and then you come back to Namibia and see what is really happening when it comes to the licensing of teachers. What are they talking about? What is documented? What was the proposal, etc.? You must also be able to discuss the relationship of mentoring to performance management. Look at can you marry the two? What is the difference? What are they saying about mentoring in comparing it or in relating it to performance management? Very important. You must also be able to discuss the importance of performance management. Is it very important? Performance management. Why is it important? What is involved? So you need to get to the bottom of this and have a wider understanding of what we are talking about. Because most of these things do happen, or they are vivid at our schools where we are. Performance is an emphasis. The head of the department is expecting performance from the teachers. The teachers, the principal is expecting performance from their head of department, and the list goes on. The inspector, the director, the director, PS, and you have all seen, if you have been following the news of what is happening to our cabinet ministers. They are required to perform, and they are signing the performance as instructed by the head of state, the President of the Republic of Namibia. So you make these references, but okay, of course, you bring it to the core of education. And what are we talking about? Okay, to go on with the presentation, the next one is explain how peer tutoring system for learners can be implemented in school. Peer tutoring, whereby the learners are helping one another in order to acquire the basic competencies in different subjects. How do you understand that? How can this be implemented in your schools, whereby learners are helping one another in order to acquire or in order to reach the basic competencies that are in each syllabus or in each subject? Outline factors of good teaching. Teaching generally can be good teaching, it can be bad teaching. What are those characteristics? What is very involved here? If you are saying good teaching, what are we talking about? Is it good because of what is involved? You know, in a classroom, for a person to be categorized as a best teacher or a good teacher, lesson planning, lesson presentation, initiatives, creativity, you name them. So what are the good, the factors of good teaching? So you go back. As I said, don't limit yourself to the books that are given to you, only the modules. That is just a drop in the ocean. You have to expand that knowledge. Visit some other sources that are helpful, that are going to help you achieve the objectives of this course. Some other people, what they do, they are given the assignments. What they do, they simply go to the modules, copy and paste, and they submit an assignment. You haven't applied the knowledge. You need to expand that. Don't limit yourself to what is given. So in that case, you only want to submit an assignment, get marked, qualify for exam, memorize, and write exam. But I know that's not you. You have a purpose and want to achieve it. So please go back to the books. That knowledge that's given, or the information that's presented in the books, should not be the end of the story, but you have to go extra miles and exercise. Find out, experiment some other ways, get some other sources. In that case, you'll be able to be a good teacher, not only to pass, end of the story, but to apply what you have learned in the classroom situation, in the school. You are going to be a manager, you're going to be a teacher, a head of department, principal, inspector. Then you know the knowledge that has been equipped, that you were equipped with. You can utilize it now, applying it. You must also be able to identify difficulties faced by newly qualified teachers. You can just imagine, I am new from the university. I enter in the classroom, I'm given a syllabus and given a class. You're an English teacher, go and teach. A physical science teacher, go and teach. So they are facing a lot of problems. But what is more advisable is when they are being mentored, then they are being taken care of, they are being guided, and getting that what we call induction. So they are facing a lot of problems. Can be academically, can be emotional, can be, situations at schools, coming in for the first time cannot be an easy game. You must also be able to distinguish. I spoke about this verb that is very, very critical. Distinguish between formal and informal mentorship. What is that we are referring to? If you have to distinguish between the two, formal and informal mentorship, what is that you are doing? Your book or your books and some other avenues will be able to help you if you explore more venues in this instance. As a student, you must also be able to discuss, look at the verb discuss, the international recognized values of a mentor. A mentor should have certain values. When you are to identify who should be a mentor of the new teachers that are coming at school, there must be somebody with certain characteristics. Not everybody qualifies to be a mentor, but there must be values. And we are talking about international recognized values of a mentor. Explore them and present them. In the assignment, you must also be able to discuss the barriers experienced when attempting coaching culture in school. This is also one of the obstacles when it comes to coaching. What are the barriers? Because, somebody is allocated to do that, to do the coaching at school. If you are to establish it at school, what are the barriers? What are barriers that are involved, that are stumbling blocks that might hinder with the coaching culture at school? You must also be able to discuss the reasons for resistance to performance management. Resistance is everywhere. When something new is introduced, you would always expect a resistance from the staff members, as a principal, as head of department. So reasons now, specifically in particular, we are referring to performance management. So what are the reasons that you can establish, that you can discuss here? Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally come to the end of this presentation that's dealing with assignments. Perhaps the advice that I have for you is just to make sure that you prepare thoroughly for assignments. For you to write a good assignment, you start on time. So you make sure that you have enough time and then you deal with it. not doing haphazardly work that you want to do in the end where the assignment is due today. You are running around and you will submit substandard work. The earlier, the better. So my advice for you is just to revise all the units. And once more, you must go back to the verbs, because I'm not expecting you to explain when the question is required to you or is requested to you to define. You should have an understanding of each verb and know what are the requirements, what is required from you. And please, you should try to answer what is required or what is asked. And moreover, you need to apply. So in the application is when you are utilizing the experience that you have acquired so far as a teacher. And please don't say, no, I don't understand this question, so I cannot answer this. So you must try by all means to make sure that you have answered all the questions. Don't leave, and I'm repeating, do not leave any question unattended. You can consult some other sources for skills and knowledge expansion. Don't limit yourself to the modules that are given by you, to you by IOL, but you can expand knowledge and skills by exploring some other sources. Internet, you read some books there are books that are prescribed in your module, so you consult them. The other best way also is to, form up maybe WhatsApp groups and then you communicate on a regular basis. I have seen it. Many students have done that and it's very exciting. So they are helping one another and it's the best way of learning and understanding some aspects. And all the best of luck, and you can consult me. My mobiles are 0811 480977 or 0812531801. So you are only required to contact me from 8 o'clock in the morning up to 5. If I'm busy, I will always come back to you. And weekends are not included, so you can contact me on weekdays. My email address, if you can drop me an email, it's t_shikukuma@yahoo.co.uk. Best of luck with your assignments, and please study very hard. Yeah, I know you will make it for graduation. Best of luck.